Hello, Dawn Moore at Allegiance Title Company. Today I'm going to address an issue that a client asked me to address on this video. The question is, what, if anything, can a seller do if a buyer provides written notice to the seller that the buyer was unable to obtain credit approval under the terms specified in the third-party financing addendum for credit approval? Will that notice allow the buyer to simply walk the obligations of the contract? The third-party financing addendum for credit approval does state that if the buyer cannot obtain credit approval, buyer can give written notice to the seller within a certain number of days, and then the contract will terminate upon that notice and earnest money refunded to buyer. So the question is, simply giving that notice, will that allow the buyer to walk? The answer to that question is yes, if in fact the buyer was unable to get credit approval, but only after the buyer has made reasonable effort to get credit approval. The answer to that question is no, if the buyer did not make a reasonable effort. The addendum requires the buyer to promptly apply for financing and make every reasonable effort to obtain credit approval. It goes on to require the buyer to furnish all documents and information required of the lender for credit approval. If the buyer does not do what is required under the addendum, they cannot walk the contract by giving notice that they were unable to give credit approval. That reason does not exist. But then the next question is, how does a seller know whether a buyer has promptly applied, made reasonable effort, and furnished all documents to the lender? Well, the seller and his representative is given written permission in the addendum for third-party financing from the buyer to obtain such information from the lender. The last line above the signatures on that third-party financing addendum for credit approval states, buyer hereby authorizes any lender to furnish to the seller or buyer or their representatives information relating only to the status of credit approval of buyer. When the seller is given a notice from the buyer that they were unable to obtain credit approval and they question whether an effort was made, the seller can call the lender and has written permission from the buyer to obtain information to find out from the lender if the buyer has promptly applied, made reasonable effort, and furnished all documents and information. This is a good thing to know. And I hope this is useful to you and can continue to be helpful as you go out there and you write your contracts this spring season. We want to be a partner in your success, and I'm very proud of the team that we've assembled at Allegiance Title. So if we can ever be of help, please call on us. And if you have something you'd like us to discuss in this video, please email me at tipoftheweek@allegiancetitle.com. Thank you.